welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello, and welcome to the YouTube channel, the School of Love, the place where we learn practical tools based on scientific research and our own experiences towards improving ourselves, living life to its fullest, and contributing to the best of our abilities to the world around us. I'm Dr. Maria Grajdian, and I am a professor of media studies and anthropology at Hiroshima University. In my free time, I am doing my best to guide you in building up a life of contentment, joy, and fulfillment while applying lessons learned in school to overcome the difficulties, challenges, and insecurities of the real world. In today's video, I talk about Baymax, as it was released in Japan, or Big Hero 6, as it was released in the rest of the world. It was the animation movie released by Walt Disney Animation Studios in 2014, which displays, in my interpretation, a refreshing approach to masculinity as enlightened masculinity, transcending tradition and classical expectations, transmitted, promoted, and reinforced by socio-economic practices, economic political discourses, as well as mainstream media. Current debates on the shifting dynamics of gender roles, promoted by mainstream media and challenged by the quotidian reality of late modernity, bring into foreground the necessity of seriously addressing the validity of traditionally transmitted values and patterns of thinking, of perceiving, and of processing the world as well as the human being. This video tackles the problematic of enlightened masculinity as being actively derived from the intensely discussed toxic masculinity, and this video highlights its origins, characteristics, and challenges. Starting from in-depth analysis of classic masculinity as a place of unlimited control and demonstration of power, the current video draws on previous explanations of proposals of alternative views on masculinity as represented in hugely popular media franchises such as Star Wars, Harry Potter in the West, and Rurouni Kenshin in Japan, which were detailed in the video Enlightened Masculinity, the Art of Loving, a couple of weeks ago. Moving closer towards the emerging paradigm of empowered femininity, the syntactic construction enlightened masculinity turns into a valid model to be observed more poignantly and subsequently to be emulated on a larger social scale, as convincingly displayed in Baymax Big Hero 6, the animation movie released by Walt Disney Animation Studios in 2014 and discussed in greater detail in this video. And now, first things first, that is, 2 disclaimers. The first disclaimer serves to strongly emphasize the fact that this YouTube channel, The School of Love, is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. Together, we can build up a better tomorrow for as many of us as possible. The second disclaimer relates to the fact that I am a trained musician and musicologist, not a psychologist, therapist, or counselor. The ideas I am sharing in my videos reflect my deep-going preoccupation with life, my own life and other people's lives, and express the results of my experiences, my research, and for better or for worse, my failures, as well as my recovery from those failures. Recovery which is continuously ongoing. The ideas expressed in the videos on this channel named The School of Love cannot and may not and must not replace the consultation with specialists in whichever areas of your life you might have questions or you might struggle with. If you are new to the channel at this moment, I would like to ask you to please consider subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. Thank you very, very much. This helps us not only with that mysterious algorithm which seems to dominate the galaxy of YouTube, but also with contributing to the expansion of the community of humans doing their best to impact positively the world and those around them by discovering their authentic selves and living life wholeheartedly. Thanks again. And now, back to today's topic, which is Baymax or Big Hero 6. It has been widely observed that current debates on the shifting dynamics of gender roles, promoted by mainstream media and challenged by the quotidian reality of late modernity, bring into foreground the necessity of seriously addressing the validity of traditionally transmitted values and patterns of thinking, of perceiving, and of processing the world, as well as the human being. As argued elsewhere, the concept of toxic masculinity is a highly problematic one, focusing more on the negative dimensions of what a man is in opposition to the complex dynamics of what the identity of man has been historically constructed and acknowledged. Distancing itself from prevalent discourses on the negativity of classic models of masculinity, this video tackles the issues of enlightened masculinity as being actively derived from the intensely discussed toxic masculinity. Precisely as classic femininity is based on outdated models of what might be labeled as toxic femininity after several waves of feminism, the discussion ought to quest for alternative paradigms of empowered femininity, rather than endlessly circling around the premises of the past, which famously cannot be undone. In another video on enlightened masculinity, I talk about the origins, characteristics, and challenges of masculinity in late modernity, starting from in-depth analysis of classic masculinity as a place of unlimited control and demonstration of power. In the future, I plan another video on a more comprehensive definition of toxic masculinity and its 9 levels or masks, as described and analyzed by Lewis Howes in his groundbreaking book from 2017, The Masks of Masculinity, so that a powerful light is thrown on the huge pressure men face in everyday life, as well as on the fixed forms of identity they are supposed to adhere to. I have already released a video on the practical challenges to toxic masculinity displayed in mainstream media, such as the hugely popular franchises of Star Wars and Harry Potter, as well as Rurouni Kenshin. Apart from being representatives of a specific zeitgeist dominating the Western world since mid-1970s in case of Star Wars, and reflecting the powerful paradigm shift which occurred during the 1990s as feminism became more than a guerrilla war carried out by intellectual women at universities, what Harry Potter stands for, or emerging in an era of profound insecurity and soul-searching taking place in Japan, the only non-Western nation to have attained and swiftly surpassed the Western standards of progress and civilization, the lost decade of the 1990s when Rurouni Kenshin was released. The 3 franchises taken as concrete examples disclose alternative models of masculinity, astonishingly similar in their suggestions, backed by the painful awareness that the classic structures of traditional masculinity promoted by mass media have failed to offer valid answers to prevailing challenges and questions. These challenges and questions are not new. They are as old as the consciousness of male and female. What is new, though, is the historical context, which does not allow anymore for half-hearted solutions and pushes for honest discussions, both in the public sphere and in the intimacy of individual interrogations. In this video, I talk about Baymax, or Big Hero 6, which is, in my interpretation, a first concretization of the efforts to not only redefine masculinity, but also to reconceptualize it at a deep level. Baymax, or Big Hero 6, is an animation movie released by Walt Disney Animation Studios in 2014, and which credibly offers clear instructions in the form of the cartoon medium on how a more productive and compassionate cooperation between male and female citizens of this beautiful world might function. Like Star Wars, Baymax is profoundly influenced by Japanese elements. However, instead of a complicated, greater-than-life philosophy and complex storylines, it depicts practical strategies to accept and understand each other in our stellar humanity. Eventually, the cute and kind care robot, vaguely reminiscent of Studio Ghibli's Totoro's, but more high-tech in fashion of Tezuka Osamu's Astro Boy. So Baymax, the cute and kind care robot, offers possibly the most endearing lesson in the essence of the human condition. Beyond being male or female, each of us is plainly longing for love and affection, and it takes courage to give in to the insight that in order to find love and affection, one has to be ready to give them first to others, and thus to lead by example. In doing so, Baymax transcends the classic elements of courage or yuki, steady effort or doryoku, and friendship or UI, leading to ultimate victory or shori, as detailed by the weekly Shonen Jump in 1968 in its quest for the most powerful features a good manga product targeted at teenage boys, the shonen demographic, should provide. Baymax, or Big Hero 6, proves that moving closer towards the emerging paradigm of empowered femininity, the syntactic construction enlightened masculinity turns into a valid model to be observed more closely and subsequently to be disclosed on a large social scale. Its aesthetic and ideological significance, as well as media impact, consist in a compelling way in its unexpected and deep-going insights into the workings of late modern existential philosophy by means of the animated medium, appointed to carry messages of a futuristic, though strangely familiar-looking world in which love and kindness become valuable foundations of human behaviors and interactions. At first sight, Baymax, or Big Hero 6, a huge success both on a critical and on a commercial level, is a culture product combining Western, that is US American animation styles, and Eastern, that is Japanese, symbolical contents. Moreover, it appears as a translucent and optimist echo of the 1982 neo-noir dystopian science fiction movie Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott, and with Harrison Ford in the lead role. The plot is quite simple, and it refers, after the exploration of the emotional intricacies of sisterhood in Frozen, released by Walt Disney Pictures 1 year before in 2013, and released in Japan as Anna and the Snow Kingdom, to the complex and often rather competitive interactions between brothers. The directors Don Hall and Chris Williams tackle, I would say with graceful realism, the problematic of brotherhood in the absence of a functional family as promoted by classic standards, thus redefining family and family relationships as a site of gradual self-discovery. The plot evolves essentially around the main character Hiro Hamada, who is a 14-year-old robotics genius living in the futuristic city of San Francisco, obviously a concatenation of San Francisco and Tokyo. Raised by his aunt Cass Hamada and his older brother Tadashi Hamada after the death of his parents 10 years ago, Hiro spends his time participating in illegal robots fights until Tadashi takes him to the robotics center at his university, where he encounters Tadashi's friends who are all robotic nerds. Two girls, Go-Go and Honey Lemon, and one boy, Wasabi, as well as Fred, a sort of freeloader comic books fan hanging around the laboratory. A little later, his brother Tadashi introduces him to Baymax, the healthcare robot he has been developing in his quest to help people in need. Inspired by their enthusiastic research activity, by his brother's soft persuasion methods, and by Professor Robert Callaghan's laid-back encouragement, Hiro decides that he wants to join the team at San Francisco Institute of Technology and starts preparing to present a breathtaking innovation that will allow him to enroll. Originally, Baymax, or Big Hero 6, was inspired by the Marvel Comics superhero team Big Hero 6, the name under which it was released in the United States, but goes way beyond the superficial plot of telling the story of a young robotics prodigy who forms a superhero team to combat a masked villain. Instead, by means of aesthetic transgression and ideological transfer, Baymax, Big Hero 6, displays kindness as a newly discovered driving force on the background of typically Japanese metropolitan landscapes, combined, combined with slightly Victorian atmospheres and home interior designs. Moreover, love is simultaneously reconstructed as a complex emotion comprising compassion, respect, gratitude, loyalty, and caring, in a practical attempt to replace the prevailing understanding of love as romantic love with the neo humanist vision of love as authentic self love, as famously stated by Erich Fromm decades ago. Set in a standalone universe, a parallel universe in which San Francisco was largely rebuilt by Japanese immigrants in the aftermath of the devastating earthquake which had occurred in 1906, although this premise is actually never stated in the movie. Baymax, or Big Hero 6, combines in the huggable stature of the main robot character and the lessons learned by its main human character, both advanced technology and the retro feeling embodied by San Francisco, with its skyscrapers and its adjoining hills, as well as the reconfiguring of the Golden Gate Bridge as a juxtaposition of Torii, that is, entrance gates at Shinto shrines in Japan, and the inclusion of a no mask, falsely identified in the movie as Kabuki mask, as the identification attributes of the evil character. The story is both fun and engaging. In a way, it is a typical coming of age storyline, akin to Spider Man grasping with great power, but in fact, it goes far beyond that superficial appearance. The audiences don't just watch Hero struggle as a teenager to redefine the man he wants to be, especially after the tragic loss of his elder brother. There is also Baymax, who develops from a robotic nurse to a full sentient being, and it is their relationship growth, that drives Hero's path towards maturity and the core elements of the story. However, rather than its plot, the structure and configuration of the characters are the strongest assets of the movie Baymax, or Big Hero 6. Firstly, Baymax, the healthcare robot, embodies two main elements of sustained efforts in redefining masculinity in late modernity. On the one hand, there is what one might call the concept of tough cuteness as a practical gate into the adulthood, as Hiro Hamada, the male teenager whose care Baymax takes over, gradually discovers. On the other hand, the concept of cool kindness is intertwined, turning Baymax, the healthcare robot, into a symbol of fruitful cooperation between its non humanity and its warm empathy, one of the keys to success of Walt Disney Animation since 1928. Through the character of Baymax, this first official feature crossover collaboration between Marvel and Disney combines what the House of Mouse and the House of Ideas do best and transcends them into a warm, funny, heartfelt, and riveting adventure film. The three college nerds, Gogo, Wasabi, Honey Lemon, and Fred, the halfway mysterious mascot at the San Francisco Institute of Technology, serve both as inspiration and challenge to the young and life unexperienced hero. Each of them portrays one main aspect of the complex personality of a mature man. Gogo is a tough athletic student, definitively a woman of few words. Wasabi is a smart, slightly neurotic young man, actually highly conservative and cautious, obviously the most normal in a group of brazen characters. In the second part of the movie, he becomes, in a way, the voice of the audiences and points out that what they are doing is crazy, thus grounding the development of the plot by breaking the fourth wall. While being a chemistry enthusiast, Honey Lemon is a glasses half full kind of person with a very specific mad scientist spark in the twinkle of her eyes. Finally, Fred moves beyond his appearance of a school's mascot and science enthusiast, and while none of these four characters really changes along the movie, at the obligatory we need to be a team type of moment, the tension necessary in the dramatic development is created. Hiro's brother, Tadashi Hamada, becomes, after his death, like Obi-Wan Kenobi in another universe, a symbol of mentorship and inspiration, and transcends those the limits of brotherhood as a competitive relationship and undertaking in late modernity. Tadashi Hamada is a positive, well balanced young man on the way into his own adulthood. After his death in the laboratory fire while trying to save his professor, the healthcare robot Baymax created by him takes over his task of guiding the teenager hero on the complicated allays of puberty. In his turn, Hiro, the younger brother and the main human character, learns to overcome the pain of the loss of his brother in the pursuit of a meaningful life, hence transcending anger and the will to revenge into compassion and the ability to forgive. More often than not, practical instruments in dealing with the intricacies and inconsistencies of the grown up's world. In a discussion with a Western animation fan, 6 reasons for Baymax or Big Hero 6 being an unusual animated work on men and masculinity produced in the West came out. Firstly, it is a coming of age movie which realistically and emotionally depicts the fears and confusions of late modern teenagers, especially male ones. Secondly, it clearly moves away from the classical plot of giving in into one's negative emotions and pursues a policy of overcoming sadness, loss, and a wish to revenge. Thirdly, it is far more than an adaptation of an original comics book, and while it honestly pays tribute to the aesthetic ideological source, it surpasses its model and develops an own universe with a clear message and profile. A fourth dimension is its infusion with Japanese elements, which leads on a fifth level to a rarely encountered diversity of images and ideas presented in a Disney or Hollywood production. Finally, it is a futuristic work, recreating avant la lettre the world of tomorrow, not as a dystopian space dominated by violence and hatred, but as a beautiful world, fresh and attractive in its colorful plurality. In his quest for love, acceptance, and belonging, Hiro Hamada uncovers a whole new world of significance and engagement in which friendship and individual freedom might constitute the foundation of a fresh, innovative attitude towards self and others, not as competition and repression, but as creative interdependence and peaceful coexistence and cooperation, which is, after all, the essence of being a man in today's world towards a prosperous future of peace and abundance for as many of us as possible. Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you for joining me today. As always, I'm more than happy to share with you my insights, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you very soon again. Love and peace to you all.